There are moments in human history when a single mind peers too deeply into the abyss, and the world turns away, unable to follow. Friedrich Nietzsche was one of those minds. He saw what most of us refuse to see, that beneath the polite order of civilization, beneath morality, religion, and comfort, lies a silent void. A truth so vast and merciless that even to glance at it can shatter a soul. Imagine standing on a cliff at dawn, the sky blood-red and trembling with the first light. The air is still, almost sacred, and yet, beneath that fragile beauty, you sense something ancient and unyielding. A force indifferent to your prayers, your ambitions, your fragile hopes. That is where Nietzsche stood, on that edge between meaning and meaninglessness. It was not a celebration, as so many misunderstood. It was a lament, the cry of a man who realized that humanity had outgrown its illusions but had built nothing to replace them. He saw that the scaffolding of morality that had held civilizations upright for centuries was beginning to crumble, and in its place would rise a terrible freedom, the freedom to define meaning for ourselves, or to perish in the void. To Nietzsche, this was the dangerous truth, that human beings are not guided by divine order, but by their own capacity to create values. We are the architects and the destroyers of our worldviews, and yet most of us live as though someone else had already written the script of our lives. He saw how people clung to systems, religion, ideology, nationalism, not because they were true, but because they offered relief from the unbearable weight of existence. We do not seek truth, he said, we seek comfort, and comfort is often the enemy of growth. What frightened Nietzsche was not chaos itself, but our inability to face it. He saw the coming collapse of certainty, the erosion of moral absolutes, the disillusionment with progress, the slow unraveling of the narratives that once gave life coherence. He foresaw a civilization drifting into nihilism, where everything is permitted, but nothing truly matters. And yet, within this terrifying vision, he also saw possibility. For Nietzsche, the death of God was not the end, but the beginning of a new creation. He believed that out of the ashes of old beliefs, new forms of greatness could emerge. A human being strong enough to bear the truth without flinching, courageous enough to invent meaning in a world without given purpose. But to reach that state, one must first pass through the fire of despair, through the recognition that everything once sacred may be an illusion. Most turn away at this threshold. Nietzsche walked through it, and it cost him his mind. The world remembers his madness but forgets the wound that caused it. He had gazed too long into what he called the abyss, and as he warned, if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. To see clearly is to risk everything. To strip away illusions is to stand naked before the infinite, unprotected, unanchored, utterly alone. Yet, Nietzsche believed that only through this confrontation could the human spirit be reborn. We are left, then, with a question that echoes through every generation. If all the foundations of meaning crumble, if no divine voice speaks for us, can we still create a life worth living? The cliff remains before us. The dawn still burns red. And somewhere, deep within the silence of that vast emptiness, Nietzsche's whisper lingers. Become who you are. There is a strange cruelty in truth. It liberates, but only after it destroys. Every civilization builds itself on stories that make existence bearable. Myths of destiny, divine order, eternal justice. We inherit these tales like lullabies, sung to silence the terror of being alive. But Nietzsche was the one who refused to sleep. He tore away the comforting fabric and asked, what if these stories are not truths, but tranquilizers? He saw that the human soul is addicted to illusions. Religion, morality, even progress, all are beautiful lies we tell ourselves to endure the chaos. The modern world, drunk on science and reason, had dismantled its old gods but had not learned to live without them. We had become clever, but not wise, enlightened, but unanchored. He understood something most of us avoid. The pursuit of truth is not a path toward comfort, but toward solitude. To love truth is to risk losing everything that once felt safe, to be exiled from the warmth of the herd. Most people, he observed, do not truly want freedom. They want the appearance of it, the illusion that they are thinking for themselves, while still obeying the same invisible masters of convention, morality, and belonging. Nietzsche saw this everywhere, in churches, in universities, in politics. The modern man, he said, still kneels but before new idols. The idol of reason, the idol of money, the idol of public opinion. And perhaps the most dangerous idol of all, the idol of comfort. To live truthfully, Nietzsche believed, was to accept life in all its contradictions. Joy and suffering, creation and destruction, order and chaos. Not as opposites, but as necessary halves of the same whole. He called this amor fati, the love of fate. To say yes to everything that happens, even the pain, even the loss. To affirm life so completely that you would choose to live it again, exactly as it was, for eternity. But who among us can love our suffering? Who can bless the heartbreak, the failure, the despair? The very thought offends our moral instincts. We are trained to seek happiness, not depth, to chase comfort, not truth. And so, Nietzsche stood apart, a solitary prophet in a world that wanted soothing words, not dangerous insights. He knew that truth, stripped of its consolations, can drive a person mad. He who has a why to live, he wrote, can bear almost anyhow. But what happens when the why itself disappears? When meaning is no longer given, but must be created out of nothing? That is where the battle begins, between the comfort of illusion and the agony of awareness. Most people retreat. They wrap themselves in ideologies, entertainment, or belief systems, anything to avoid the nakedness of that confrontation. But Nietzsche insisted that it is precisely in that exposure, in that trembling before the void, that the possibility of greatness begins. He did not want disciples, he wanted awakenings. He wanted humanity to outgrow its need for comfort, to become creators rather than believers. To stand, as he said, beyond good and evil, not in moral chaos, but in moral freedom, the freedom to shape values, to sculpt one's life like a work of art. Carl Jung, reflecting on Nietzsche's torment, once wrote, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." Nietzsche understood this long before Jung did. The deeper one's confrontation with darkness, the higher one's potential for light. But the modern spirit, he feared, had grown too fragile for such depths. We have built a world of constant distraction to avoid what Nietzsche faced alone. Yet the abyss does not vanish when ignored. It waits, quietly, in the background of every convenience, every comfort, every glowing screen, waiting for the moment we dare to look again. In the ruins of the old world, where the gods had fallen silent and certainty had turned to dust, Nietzsche envisioned a new kind of human being. Not a creature of obedience or faith, but one of creation. A being who would rise beyond despair, beyond morality, beyond even the need for meaning handed down by others. He called this figure der Übermensch, the Overman. The Overman is not a tyrant, nor a conqueror of others, but a conqueror of the self. He is one who has passed through nihilism and emerged on the other side, scorched but alive, bearing his own light. He does not escape suffering, he transforms it. For Nietzsche, suffering was not an error in existence but its raw material, the clay from which greatness is shaped. But the Overman is not born easily. He must first die many deaths, the death of illusions, the death of comfort, the death of every borrowed truth that once kept him safe. Only then can he begin to create. Nietzsche described humanity as a bridge, not an end in itself, but a passage from the animal to something higher. Man is a rope stretched between the beast and the Overman, a rope over an abyss, he wrote. And that abyss, once again, is the truth. The terrifying realization that no one will save us, that we must build meaning with our own trembling hands. To become the Overman, one must first face the chaos within. The instincts we deny, the fears we repress, the longings we bury. Nietzsche believed that these are not to be destroyed, but integrated. He saw that morality, as society defined it, often divided the self against itself, labeling instincts as evil, desires as sinful, passions as dangerous. Yet these same instincts, if harnessed, could become the source of vitality and creativity. The Overman does not suppress his nature. He refines it. He takes the chaos inside and gives it form. He lives as an artist lives, sculpting his existence with courage and precision. His life is not guided by rules but by rhythm, not by commandments but by authenticity. And yet, this transformation is a lonely path. The herd mocks what it does not understand. Nietzsche knew that those who rise beyond convention are often branded as heretics, madmen, or monsters. He himself was called all three. The Overman stands alone, not because he rejects others, but because he no longer depends on their approval to define his worth. This idea, dangerous and liberating, became the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy, that the highest form of morality is self-creation. Not obedience to an external law, but fidelity to one's own becoming. It is no accident that Nietzsche spoke so often of the artist, the dancer, the child. Each represents a stage in this evolution. The artist creates meaning. The dancer moves with life's rhythm. And the child, the final stage, plays unburdened by fear, innocent again after wisdom. The child symbolizes the rebirth of the spirit, a return to wonder after the storm of despair. To reach that innocence, one must first endure the fire of awareness, to lose every false comfort and still choose to say yes to life. Nietzsche's ideal was not happiness but affirmation, the courage to embrace existence in its entirety, even the parts that break us. In this way, the Overman is not a fantasy but a mirror. He is the potential sleeping within each of us, the self that could be born if only we dared to face our darkness without retreating. As the French philosopher Albert Camus later observed, "In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer." Nietzsche's vision is that summer, not one of warmth and ease, but of blazing clarity, where the soul no longer fears the cold. And so, out of the ashes of despair, he offered a challenge to humanity. Do not seek shelter in illusion. Become the storm that shapes the world anew. Those who see too far ahead often walk alone. It is the price of vision, to glimpse what others cannot bear, to speak truths that tear the fabric of comfort. Nietzsche carried that burden until it consumed him. His words, once electric with fire, turned to silence as his mind fractured under the weight of his own insight. In January 1889, on a cold morning in Turin, he saw a horse being beaten in the street. He ran to it, weeping, threw his arms around its neck, and then something inside him broke. The mind that had illuminated the dark corners of human existence fell into madness. From that day, he never spoke coherently again. The prophet of strength, the herald of becoming, vanished into the shadows of his own mind. Was it the abyss finally gazing back? Or was it the inevitable cost of seeing reality without the filter of illusion? Nietzsche had always known that truth could destroy. He had written it himself, "One must have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star." Yet he also warned that those who stare too long into the chaos may lose the rhythm that keeps them human. The same fire that enlightens can also burn. His tragedy is not only personal, it is symbolic. It mirrors the danger inherent in awakening, the thin line between liberation and disintegration. When the old gods die and nothing stands in their place, the soul is left exposed to infinity, and infinity is indifferent. For most of us, illusion is a necessary mercy. We need small lies to survive the immensity of truth. But Nietzsche, in his relentless honesty, refused even that mercy. He tore away every veil until nothing was left between him and existence itself. And existence, when stripped bare, is both beautiful and unbearable. He once wrote that to live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. But what happens when meaning itself dissolves? When suffering is no longer redeemed by purpose? Nietzsche faced that abyss not metaphorically but existentially. His mind, brilliant and burning, collapsed under the sheer gravity of its own clarity. There is a lesson here hidden in his madness. The pursuit of truth must be balanced by the art of living. To stare into chaos, one must also learn to dance with it. Without rhythm, the gaze becomes paralysis. Without grace, knowledge becomes despair. Nietzsche had the vision of a god but the heart of a man, fragile before the immensity of what he saw. The philosopher Martin Heidegger would later call Nietzsche the last metaphysician, the one who completed the destruction of all illusions but could not yet inhabit the world that would follow. He was the bridge, not the destination, the herald of a future consciousness still unborn. His writings were a prophecy, not a system. They warned that when humanity loses its shared myths, it will not immediately rise into freedom. It will fall first into confusion, chaos, and despair. We see that prophecy unfolding even now, in the loneliness of the modern mind, in the exhaustion of a world that has everything except meaning. Nietzsche's collapse was not failure. It was sacrifice. He walked to the edge so that others might know where it lies. His madness was the shadow of a vision too vast for one mind to bear. Carl Jung once reflected on this with haunting clarity. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Nietzsche embodied that truth completely. He became the wound through which humanity might awaken, the necessary casualty of our evolution beyond certainty. And perhaps this is why his silence still echoes. It is not the silence of defeat, but of completion. He had said all that could be said. He had torn open the veil. What came after, the void, the darkness, the quiet, was simply the truth, unadorned. The question that remains is not what became of Nietzsche. The question is what will become of us, now that we too have begun to see what he saw. When the gods have fallen and every illusion has turned to ash, what remains? The silence that follows the collapse of meaning is not empty. It hums with a strange, fragile possibility. This is the silence Nietzsche left us with, not despair, but the space in which something new might be born. He had burned through every illusion that once bound humanity together: faith, morality, progress. And in the smoking ruins he whispered the most terrifying freedom ever uttered. Everything is permitted, because nothing is given. In that sentence lies both the abyss and the ascent. For if nothing is given, then everything must be created. We live now in the aftermath of Nietzsche's revelation. The world he foresaw, a world without shared truth, where meaning must be handmade, is no longer a prophecy. It is the air we breathe. We scroll through infinite voices, each declaring their own truth, each believing themselves awake. Yet beneath the noise is a deep spiritual fatigue, a hunger that progress cannot feed. We have become gods of technology, masters of matter, and yet, inwardly, many feel hollow. Nietzsche saw this emptiness coming like a storm on the horizon. His message was never nihilism for its own sake. It was a warning and a challenge. Nihilism, he said, is not the end. It is a beginning. It is the moment before the rebirth of values. The destruction of false gods is not meant to leave us in despair, but to clear the space for something truer, something earned. To live after the death of illusion is to become a creator, not in the grand sense of shaping nations or writing scripture, but in the quiet, relentless work of shaping one's own soul. To create one's meaning is to take responsibility for one's existence, to stop asking what life owes you and instead ask what you can make of it. Nietzsche wanted humanity to become artists of life, sculptors of the self. But creation demands courage. For when there are no given values, every act becomes a risk, every decision a leap into uncertainty. It is easier to follow, to obey, to be told what is right. Yet the spirit that chooses to create walks a different path, a path of solitude and authenticity. In this solitude, Nietzsche saw a kind of sacredness. He did not believe in salvation through belief, but in transformation through affirmation, the yes to life in all its chaos. Even pain, he said, must be embraced as part of the great dance of becoming. To reject suffering is to reject the very conditions of growth. This is why he wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." The dancing star, radiant, defiant, alive, is what remains after everything false has fallen away. It is the symbol of a soul that has turned its wounds into art, its solitude into strength. And perhaps that is what Nietzsche truly meant by the Overman. Not a superhuman conqueror, but a being who can love existence without needing it to be perfect. Who can look upon the cruelty and the beauty of the world and say, "Still, I choose this." That is the dangerous truth Nietzsche tried to tell the world, that there is no external redemption, no final answer waiting beyond the horizon. The meaning of life is not discovered. It is forged. The divine is not above us. It is within the act of creation itself. Most will turn away from this truth because it demands too much. It asks for the death of every comfort, the loss of every certainty. But for those who dare to face it, something extraordinary awakens. The realization that life, in all its impermanence and chaos, is enough. And so the question remains, echoing through time, through every age that clings to false gods, through every heart that trembles before freedom. When all illusions have died, will you still have the courage to say yes to life? The wind passes over the ruins of old beliefs. The silence deepens. And somewhere, in that vast quiet, the whisper returns. Become who you are.